in Philadelphia training for an upcoming fight threw some haymakers at Donovan McNabb along racial lines. Among other things, Hopkins said, quote, "McNabb is the guy in the house while everybody else is on the field. He's the one who got the extra coat, the extra servings. He thought he was one of them," unquote. Clearly, Hopkins has decided that Donovan McNabb isn't black enough for his taste. Wilbon, what do you think of this characterization of McNabb?
I think that Bernard Hopkins sounds like a moron. He sounds like an idiot, these comments, and he ought to be shouted down and ridiculed at every point. I mean, I want this to go on for days so he can be dismissed, Tony. Bernard Hopkins, and there are many like him, who seem to think that blackness is defined by lawlessness. And Mr. Hopkins served approximately 5 years in jail for between 30 and 40 robberies. So intelligence to him is whiteness, and lawlessness to him seems to identify with blackness. I'm not with that garbage. I know much more about how Donovan McNabb was raised because he was raised in the same place I was raised. And Bernard Hopkins, once again, let me reiterate, sounds like a moron.
Yeah, I find it amazing that white athletes never have to hear criticism that they're not white enough for somebody else. It seems to be a racial issue among black players that you often hear. Donovan McNabb has had this thrown at him before. And sometimes I think his answers are too political and sometimes they don't sound genuine. But I can't recall another guy who has to defend himself in ways like this. It seems
Tony,
so
this is
wrong
not a
to
problem.
me.
This is not an athletic problem. This is a cultural issue that really should be settled quietly and not in the public airwaves. But given the media world we live in now, where people can be public in a drop of a hat through Twitter or Facebook, this has become a mainstream conversation that wasn't meant for the mainstream. So Donovan McNabb is one of millions of people who is accused of this stuff all the time. And once again, it needs to be shouted down.
Let us take a break, but coming up, Ed Olczyk joins us to preview